probably worth giving a quick introduction of what MailChain is for those of you who've not yet had a chance to kind of use the application or register. Essentially, we are Web3 mail. So we allow you to send messages to Web3 identities. So they can be protocol addresses, so currently across Ethereum and Near. They can be, these addresses can actually be represented in quite a few different ways. So it could be the Ethereum address, as you see it, your 0x1234, it could be your ENS name, your Unstoppable, your free name, your lens handle. We let you contact your users in the context that makes sense for the application that you're writing. I think we have quite a few bounties. We have a few bounties available, and it's worth taking a look at them. You can see them in Discord. I'll try and make sure to get them posted inside the chat inside of YouTube as well. So I encourage you to take a look at them. But I think one of the things to also think as well is we're probably just a useful thing for almost every application. Being able to talk to users is super useful, but we're probably not the thing that's going to differentiate your application unless you're building a communication application. So I guess bear this in mind for your regular kind of things that you're building, things that you're working on. If you're building something communication focused, we're here. We have bounties specific for that, and obviously it will help as much as we can with that as well. So I guess let's get started and jump into it. And please, any questions, please just drop them in the chat and I'll keep an eye on them as we go. And also, Sean, if you see any questions that I've missed, please just wave your hand. Right, so this is the page when you land. It's super simple. Register with username. That's one of my favorites. Give yourself a nice strong password and confirm that one. I'm just going to open this section here to highlight a couple of things. So this is your secret recovery phrase. You'll recognize it as a 24-word mnemonic phrase. It gets generated on the front end securely. And this is always kept on your client locally. So it never comes to us. We use the username and password to give you a familiar login. However, it's not, your password is never sent to us. We use the opaque protocol for authentication, which means that you get a client-side secret that only you are aware of. And that really underpins our complete end-to-end encryption. Without that, using the standard OAuth communication, it's not possible. The password is sent across the wire. So that's something I just want to call out because I think it's super important and actually gives a really good experience when someone first lands on the site. So I'm going to imagine that I've already registered an account and I have one here for myself already. Now, what we've got here, I've got an account and I've already got a few different addresses in. Oops, I clicked the wrong button. I'm actually just going to clear up one of these ones because I need this a little bit later on. So I'm going to apologize there. That was me. Should have been in a better state. But this just allows me to register addresses. And as you can kind of note here, I can remove them. And when I remove an address, it just kind of removes it from here. And as you kind of noted probably there, that you can add multiple addresses. And the way we do that is actually what I'm going to show you now. So first of all, the workshop though. The workshop is available at ethworkshop.eth.limo. I say this because some of you will prefer to watch as I'm coding. Some of you will prefer to code as you go along. Some of you will want to do that afterwards because there's more modules here than I can get through in the time we've got available to us. So please do make a note of this. In fact, I'll drop it into the chat channel on YouTube so you can see it there. So the setup and prerequisites is essentially create an account. And some of the steps will have different prerequisites, but we'll get to them as we go along. So first of all, let's create that account. We saw that already, so I'm going to skip across this and I'll let you do that at your leisure. The next one is getting started with our SDK. Now, what I'm going to do first of all is I'm just going to go and create myself a directory to work inside of. That's fun, isn't it? There we go. And I'm going to open this inside of my favorite editor. And here I'm using VS Code, like many of you will be. Now, once I'm inside of VS Code, I'm going to actually initialize a Git repository. The reason for doing this is, although this is not strictly necessary for what we're doing right at this moment, we want to handle our secrets securely. And initializing a Git repository allows me to go and create a ignore file. And that's going to be important because I want to make sure that I don't store my secrets that I'm going to add inside my M file onto the into Git. So this just helps do this, and all these guides are here for you, so you can take a little look. So what I've done, I've just downloaded the Git ignore file. You can see, a good amount of detail what's inside of there, and then I'll give you a good idea of what to do. So I'm going to actually just commit the Git ignore file, get it there so it's out of the way. And what has now happened is when I go and create my M file shortly, it'll not appear. So it'll not appear inside of the files that are going to be committed. So first off, though, I'm going to create myself a file. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of set up our applications. This is a bit of boilerplate work, really, before we get started into anything. So I'm just going to create myself a file. I'm going to create the npm package. I'm going to accept the defaults because they are perfect values for what I'm doing right now. And that's given me this here. Once I've done that, I'm going to install .env. So npm install .env, and that'll get that going for me. And once I've installed .env, I'm just going to create the environment file that I will be putting environments and secrets inside of. So I'm going to open this file just to show it, and you can note it's ignored. And now I'm going to close it, and I'm not going to open it any further. So what you will get when you create an account, you'll get a file here. Now, I'm not going to open it because it's got my secret recovery phrase, and that's something I should keep definitely secret and not publish here on YouTube inadvertently. And this will contain my file. Now, I'm going to create an environment variable called secret recovery. Secret recovery phrase, and I'm going to set it to the 25-word file there. So I'm going to just do that using a command that I have available to me already, and that's just going to set this up for me, but not make it visible. So you'll be able to do that a little bit easier on your machines. So once we've done that, and now I'm going to just install the MailChain SDK. So that is available on npm naturally, MailChain/SDK. So while that's installing, I just want to make a little note here that this SDK is all public, it's open source, you can take a look how it works. I really encourage you to have a look at how we kind of build up the proof trees. I think it's super important. But it greatly simplifies interacting with the protocol. You can interact with protocol directly, but it's a lot of work. Essentially, every method that you talk to needs to have encryption or decryption, verification or signing, and the SDK can handle all that for you. So now that that's been installed, we can go ahead and actually test out that we are authenticating correctly. So I'm just going to bring in some of the files that we need, or some of the packages that we need. We're going to use .m, as we kind of touched on before. The reason for that is so that we can bring in our secret recovery phrase, which is here. And I'm just going to bring in also the MailChain SDK that we touched on just a moment ago. This is what's going to be talking to the protocol and greatly simplifying how all that works. So once I've got those, I'm going to go fetch my secret recovery phrase, and we'll get it from process.env secret recovery phrase. like that. And now I'm going to authenticate the MailChain SDK with that secret recovery phrase. Right. So at this stage, we are now authenticated, but we want to actually see and validate that this is working. So we need to use async functions. So I'm just going to create a main function to make this a little bit easier. So const user, and this is, we're going to basically just check that we can get our username or our user to see if it's working. So I'm just going to log that out into the console. There's nothing kind of secret that's going to come out here. It's just my user information. So once we've got that, let's take a look. Save that. It's always an important step. npm run. What is it? I forget now. Hit start. There we go. Cool. Okay, so you can see my username. That's what I would have registered with. And this is my MailChain address, which is what we'll use a little bit later on when it comes to sending messages. So now we've authenticated, let's kind of get to the bit that's interesting and you've wanted to come along, and let's send our first message. So what I'm going to do actually is do something like the hello world, if you like. I'm going to send a message to myself. So I'm going to just kind of capture the result. Oh, wait, we'll go from MailChain to our send mail. And this is the function, the method that you use to send a message. I'm going to set the from address to make kind of, I can send it literally from myself to make things a little bit easier. So here we go. And this is an array because you can send messages to more than one person. You do group messages, you can do CCs, BCCs, and everything else, but we'll keep it relatively simple for now. I'm going to give myself a nice simple subject. First message. Great. And I'm going to create some content. Catch this correctly. Oh no, my fingers, fat fingers, here we go. And there's two fields that we put here so that we can render content and we're compatible then with the email RFC specs if we need to. So for this, there's the HTML and the text. I'm going to make my HTML super simple because I'm definitely not a designer, but we support the full HTML suite. So anything you can send, HTML emails you can send, you can do it here. And we're missing a comma. I think that should get us about right. So let's take a look at the result. That's always important. And I'm going to run it again and see what happens. So again, it's just I'm logging out who my user is. And also it's giving me some information about the message that has been sent. And there's some delivery request vision object with some more detail. So let's go take a little look at the message, the inbox, to see what's there. Okay. And let me just pop here, move the zoom things out of the way a tiny bit. Right, and here's my first message. This is what I sent to myself. It's there. So like a super simple first step, kind of as you'd expect, but we'll kind of get into a lot more detail about what it is and what it means. I'm just going to kind of also just pause a second while we've kind of finished that step. We've got a question from Jamal, and he's asking if the MailChain bounty is only available if they build a crypto payment solution. I think essentially saying he's wondering if they can hit the bounty by integrating MailChain for emailing. Obviously, kind of really want to know a bit more about the use case, but essentially you can use MailChain to contact the users for whatever that you're building into. So if you are building a crypto payment solution and you want to contact your users, think of like a receipt or some sort of confirmation of what's happening or the artifact that you're sending, you can do that with MailChain. If you're not building a payment solution and you want to notify users for some other reason or communicate them, allow them to do logins, which you can touch on later. You can do that as well. I think messaging is, I touched on this earlier, is almost like a bit of table stakes for almost anything that you build, but it's, unless it is the core focus of what you're building, it's not a differentiator. So it's a super useful thing to add, and it's really easy to add. So yeah, if you can build it inside of build it alongside of your main focus, I think that's always a nice differentiator when it comes to a hackathon. But obviously, leave it up to you, and we're here to help with anything. We've got a Discord room, we've got office hours available. So do let us know if you need anything. Okay, all right. So we can see the message from myself to myself, but that's just sending from a MailChain address to a MailChain address. I think we want to see something a little bit more interesting. So let's start sending addresses to Ethereum wallets. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create myself an Ethereum wallet. And this is going to be a very insecure Ethereum wallet, and you're going to see why, because I'm going to create it here, and this is recorded. So here you can see I've just created myself essentially a private key, a random set of values. I'm going to open up MetaMask. I'm just going to move the zoom things around, and I'm going to import this account. So I've imported it here. So just for hygiene for myself, so I don't get too mixed up, I'm just going to give this a count. So workshop, oops, 1. Cool. Okay, so now we've got that imported into MetaMask. I'm going to show you how to register wallet addresses with MailChain so you can start receiving messages. So here you click register. You can choose your wallet. We support MetaMask, Wallet Connect, Coinbase, Near, more to come, as you might imagine. You just go connect it. And I feel like I've got MetaMask open in another window here. So let me just take a little look. What have we got? Yeah, MetaMask, sorry. I get to do that again. So I'm going to click connect. MetaMask window. Here it is. Wonderful. And I'm sorry about this. Let me refresh and make sure I don't have anything strange going on. One last time. Aha, there we go. Back to life. So this is going to connect the Ethereum address that I just created and allow me to register it with MailChain. Now, the key point is here, we need to verify that you own the address, and we do this by asking you to sign a message. The message kind of explains, relatively clearly what we're doing and why we're doing it, and importantly, it contains a messaging key and the address in a nonce. So after signing this, we use that proof to identify that you own the address, and then you can use it for messaging. Now, you're able to search for ENS names, double domain names, free name, Coinbase, Lens, etc. And if you have set up reverse lookups, these will appear automatically. I don't have any of them, just created the address, you saw it. Also, it's worth noting, I didn't need to transact for the address to be addressable. So that's all available there. So I'm going to skip this for the moment, and I'm actually not going to synchronize old messages. We'll come to that at a later stage. So now that I've done that, I've got myself a new mailbox, and you can see it here. So now that we've created our address and we've got it registered, I can show you that you are able to send a message from that address inside of the UI. But let's go do it from the SDK instead. So I'm going to switch back to the code window. I'm going to open up this here. We don't need that line before. Let's get rid of it now. And I'm going to change the from address. So I'm going to go to MetaMask. I'm going to copy the address that I've got here. And we're just going to alter it a little bit. So I'm going to set it to at Ethereum MailChain.com. For those of you who notice these are fully qualified domains and they are compatible with Mail, although that we're not turning that compatibility on at the moment. But focusing on the main part, let's go and run this again and see if we can send a message from your Ethereum address to your MailChain address again. So npm start. I'll wait for it to see if it's successfully worked, and it seems good. So I'm going to pop over to here, get rid of MetaMask at the moment, move things around again, and I'm just going to refresh my inbox and see. Okay, great. So you notice here we've got different views for different folders, and here I can see the same message essentially, but this time sent from my Ethereum address. Okay, so now let's send a message to an address, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. And there's a reason for that. So again, I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to create myself another new Ethereum address. I'm going to pop into MetaMask. Oh, come on, thank you. And I'm going to add another account. Remember how to do it, create accounts. Sorry. And import another account. I'm just going to give it a name for don't lose track too much. Let's see. Shop 2. Great. I'll copy it while I'm here. I'm going to close this window so I don't get confused later on. Now, I'm going to not register it. Instead, I'm going to send a message to it straight away. And there's a reason for that. Yeah. At ethereum.mailchain.com. Let's save that, and let's do npm start one more time. So I've got an Ethereum address. It's not yet been registered with MailChain, but we have been able to send a message to it. And this is what we call optimistic delivery. What we're doing here is we're allowing users to be able to contact, or allowing you to be able to contact your users, people that are using your site with their Ethereum or other protocol addresses, and you can contact them in the knowledge that they will be able to pick up their messages when they then go and register. So here, I'm going to register this new account. I'm going to make sure this is the second workshop. I need to work on the names to make it a bit easier, but it's definitely the second one. So I'm going to click next, connect that. I'm going to verify this address. Once that's done, there, that is great. And again, I'm going to skip giving it looking for that. But this time, I'm going to synchronize my messages. And what synchronized messages does is essentially checks for any messages that were sent to this address before it's registered. So I need to pop into my all inbox, and you can see that I've got this unread message, and this is the message that was sent from my Ethereum address to this new Ethereum address that we just created now. And this kind of gives you then hopefully an idea of the very, very basics of what could be achieved, but this will kind of make you, help you to realize that the MailChain is useful for sending or communicating with users, even if they've not yet managed to sign up. And naturally, we're working on kind of closing the gap from the number of users that use blockchains, that use ENS, Lens, and any of the other name services out there. But you're able to contact them in safe in the knowledge that they'll be able to receive that message as soon as they start using it. Okay, so also like going to pause here again just to check any questions. I know there's nothing at the moment, but do encourage you for anyone that's joined to sign up for an account, give it a try, test out the SDK, because that's as developers probably the thing that you really want to get working with. And also, if you've got any questions now on this chat, just drop them in the Zoom or YouTube. I'll try and keep an eye on things. And we have bounties available as well. So let's take a look at sending a message. And this time we'll send it from an ENS name. Now, to do this, we need to make sure that we've got an ENS name and an account registered with an ENS name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to register myself yet another address. And before I register this address, I just want to mention one thing. We've built MailChain in such a way that although that you are adding multiple addresses into a single place, we have no knowledge of what addresses have been added. This view that you see here is only available to you, the user. Everything is ender encrypted, and only the client is able to decrypt it using your secret recovery phrase. So it's safe to add multiple addresses. I think it's an important thing to, it's an important thing we've built, an important thing to mention as well. So I'm going to verify this address. And now what it's going to do is going to look for the name of services. I didn't set this up properly, so I need to go and search for it myself. So this is just very much a test address I have. .eth. So I've got an ENS name, and I'm going to search for that. And they've found one address, and that is that one. And now it's automatically set my label to that, just kind of like a handy thing. And I'll skip this one again. Done. And now we can see the rob.epistolo.eth. It's here. So let's go into the code and let's send a message from that address. So rob.epistola.eth, and we're going to send it from an ENS address. And give that a run again. And yeah, that's all worked successfully. That is great. So let's take a little look at our inbox one more time. I really should change the text of the message so it's a bit more obvious. That is my mistake. So, but here we can see the rob.epistola.eth. That's my from address. And again, I sent it to the Ethereum address. So we've got it all here. Now I can take over this inside the UI, and I can send. I can reply to it and do anything else that I want. But that's how easy it is to go and send it from ENS addresses, Ethereum addresses. If you register, if you've got a lens handle, it can be that. A stop more domains, free name, anything you like, really. So what then I think is a good thing to do, because I think we're good for time, is to take a look at some of the other things that we can do. And I'll just kind of mention them quickly first, and then we'll go through them. One is, and this maybe is relevant to the, I think it was Jamal who asked earlier, you can listen to on-chain notifications and then respond to those by sending messages, or respond to them however you want. We have a few guides inside of our documentation. This workshop, we're going to talk through how to do it with Alchemy, but we have a Tenderly one as well. And so, yeah, let's get started on that. And we're going to try something, quite different, but hopefully nice and interesting as well. This one's a little bit more involved. So let's just take a quick look. We're going to go to, sorry, just going to get the right page open. Let me show you it here a second. Where are we? Send event-driven messages. Brilliant. So here we're going to build an application that essentially exposes an API that you would run somewhere, and it allows you to listen to address activity. You can listen to different tokens, and we're going to use the Alchemy Notify API to do that. They've got quite a useful, a very useful quick start. And we use that so that we can kind of make things a little bit easier. If you haven't yet signed up, they've got a free account. And you'll also need ngrok, at least for this tutorial, which just exposes a port on your local machine. So let's kind of head over back to the terminal window. And this time we're going to clone an existing repository, the Alchemy webhook examples. And we're going to just head into their Node Express example. And I'm going to open that up in Visual Studio again. Well, I'm going to open up now into Visual Studio in the wrong window. So now that we're here, we'll just kind of like poke around, just have a see a little bit what's going on. We've got a few environment variables that have been set. We're definitely going to need to do an npm install. So let's kind of get that going to start off with. Brilliant. Actually, I've made a mistake. We really wanted to do a yarn install because they use yarn in this project and not to cause too much confusion. So first thing, actually, now that after we've done that, is let's go and run ngrok. This is a pretty cool tool, and there's some links to the documentation of how to make it work. But essentially, we're going to be listening. We're going to be exposing port 8080. And you can see some of the information here. This forward import is pretty much the most useful value, the most important value that you'll need to know. Now let's head over to the Alchemy desktop to take a little look at how we configure this. So I'm going to open up the Alchemy dashboard. I'm logged in. That's great. If you landed on the dashboard page, it's the Notify tab here. We're going to, in the address activity, create a webhook. I'm going to set this to Goerli rather than the mainnet, just so that I don't have to use if to do this example. I'm going to head back over here. I'm going to grab the forwarding URL and I'm going to pop that in here, and we're going to go webhook path. Brilliant. And I'm going to actually monitor an Ethereum address. So I'm going to pick my last workshop address. I'm going to pop it in here, which is great. So then I'm going to create myself a webhook. Now this will listen to any transaction that goes across there. So now that we've got that created, we want to actually pay attention to the validation. So because this is exposed to the outside world, Alchemy exposed what they call validate Alchemy signature method, which means that we have a little bit more control. Well, it means that we can validate that the requests coming in have actually come from the webhook that you created. So to do that, we need to get the signing key. And this is the signing key here. Now, we're going to come back to that in just a moment, but let's go into our project and set up a, we want to have open another one of these. That's great. And we're going to open up a another M file. So .env development local. I'm just going to create that. Cool. So this is my environment file. And actually we need to put in some values. So these are the values, and this is the secret key that I'm going to get from here. Great. And this is the secret recovery phrase. And yeah, it's the one that I need to create or get from when I downloaded, when I created the account. If you didn't grab that file when you created your account, by the way, you can head over to settings and you can go to secret recovery phrase and you'll be able to view or download it after you've entered your password. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close this file and I'm going to inject into there my secret recovery phrase, and then I'm going to not open the file again, but it's there and available. Okay, great. So now that we've got the secret recovery phrase in there, we need to set up a few things to make this all work. So first of all, we're going to install .env again. env. Brilliant. And I'm going to head over to the index.ts file. And this is the code that we have available. So I'm going to replace the code, or I'm going to expand the code a little bit so that we can make our new changes work. So first of all, we're going to import .m env from .m, and after we've done that, we want to make sure that we are using it. .m.config, and so I'm just going to move something out of the way. Just give it some views. Just going to set up where it's going to look for the files. So .env process.env.o.env, and if that is not set, let's just make it to be development.local. That sounds a good idea. Local. Brilliant. That looks about right. So now that we've got that set up, we just want to make sure that we've got our ports correctly. That looks good. For the signing key, though, I want to actually, I probably should do this with all of them, but it's not that important for the other ones because they're actually what we want. Oh dear. Signing underscore key. Brilliant. And we're in a good spot. There we go. So, and if you note here, this is validate signature. It's going to use the signing key to go do that validation. So that looks all good. What I'm going to do is just check that we are getting the right response here. So webhook.event.events details equals okay, like that. Okay, that all seems good. So I'm just going to start this now. And moment of truth, we're going to see whether this works. So I'm going to check this out before we kind of go further and integrate MailChain. We're going to check to see if this is able to receive messages. So I'm just going to click here. Let's send a test notification. Pop back over to the application here. So signature failed unauthorized. So what that means is it is not bringing in the .env process. So let's have a little look what I've done wrong. .env, .there, develop. Aha, this is what I needed to do. Oh. I think that's going to look a little bit better. There we go. I believe that'll be the problem. But let's send another event and let's find out. So transaction, processing webhook, and we got it. Brilliant. So that is good news. Now that we've got that working, let's hook this up and start sending some messages. What are we going to do? We're going to pop back to the code. We're just going to get to the code. So now that we're checking the event, that is good. But what we really care about actually is if the webhook is not, well, first of all, we only want to handle certain webhooks. So webhook event type, if that doesn't equal address activity, then what we're going to do, we're just going to say that that's not what we're supporting. Okay, that'll handle that kind of edge case. So there can be multiple events inside of here. So we're just we're going to make sure that we handle all of them. So activity of webhook event dot event activity. So let's check the category activity category. So if it's not an external event, we'll just continue because that's not interesting for us here. Now, what I want to do is I want to grab a few pieces of information from the event because this is what's going to underpin, is what we're going to use for the messaging later on. So we're going to get the from address, the to address, the value, the asset, and the hash of the transaction. I'm going to get that from the activity. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, how'd you say, I'm going to use these, what's the best way to describe it? This code here to populate the message. We're just going to drop them values in so we can make something that's useful for someone to add. So let me stop the application. We need now the MailChain SDK. Get that installed. And we also need to make sure that we are bringing in the MailChain secret recovery phrase. So first of all, let's import the SDK. MailChain, from MailChain SDK, that's great. Let's grab the secret recovery phrase like we have been. Recovery phrase equals process dot secret for secret and for recovery phrase. Wonderful. Yeah, that can be empty, so I'm just going to go like this. I'm missing. I just got emp. Wonderful. So now I'm going to, let's instantiate the SDK. MailChain, MailChain dot. We can do exactly what we did before. So from secret recovery phrase. What I'm going to do actually, just so that we make sure that everything is all set up properly, console.log, is we're just going to take a look. Let's get the user again. Const user equals MailChain dot user. I want to await that. And user. Wonderful. So let's start that up just to make sure that we've got this, and we've authenticated successfully. So now that we've authenticated successfully, let's go send ourselves a message, or let's go send a message, not to ourselves, but to the people that were taking part inside that transaction. So salt equals MailChain dot send mail. So just as we were doing before, we're going to set the from address to be, we'll use the MailChain user address. That makes sense. We need a to address. And because I send it to both the participants, both sides of the transaction, let's say, from address at ethereum.mailchain.com. And let's also send it to the address. Okay, that's good. And let's set the content as we need to. Let's set the subject. Subjects, yep. The content. Content. Great. I think it's always good to log this out. We can handle Here, as we might see, wonderful. So let's start this up. And there is something that's missing. That is, this needs to be asynchronous now because we have added some. No, there was something that we do need to make asynchronous. Where is it? Because we're not awaiting here. That's why it's not complaining. Oh, sorry, I think I've missed something, so I'm just going to take a second to figure out what that is that I managed to miss. That's okay. Cool. So now that that's all running, that seems pretty good. Let me start the application rather than installing the things again. So we've got that all set up. What I need to do now to trigger this message is to send a transaction. So I'm going to send a transaction to, where am I going to send this transaction to here? I'm going to send it from this account. Hopefully I still have some ETH less than go at it, do a little bit, that'll work. Send it to here. I'm going to send a nice small amount. And so next. So that should take a few seconds to go. Oh no, I need to click into. Now that has been sent, let's pop over here. It's received the webhook event. Oh, I think I have made a mistake in spelling. Ethereum. Here we go. I'm assuming everyone on the chat window spotted that. So thank you. I'm going to restart that one. And I'm going to go and send it again. Probably going to need to copy the address again. So let's go here, copy the address that does have a little bit. Actually, let's send it from this one because we've got both these addresses in, so we'll see two messages. That'll be a bit more interesting. So send to here, send again a nice small amount, and confirm the details. 1 second. No, I sent it to the wrong address. Let me get this right. I want to send it to this workshop account. Copy that one. Okay. Let's go slower. Send to here. Next. Great. So this is sent from my Epistola, Rob the Epistola to the second workshop account. Let's pop over to here to see, sorry, let's pop over to here to see if that's worked properly. And it's processed the event. It has sent it successfully. So let's go take a look inside the inbox. Here we go. We've got a couple of messages. Let's take a look what we did. We must have sent things twice, but that is okay. And here you can take a look and see that I've been transferred. There's been a transfer, is the information inside of it. And you can see that it's sent from, that's why I sent it from myself to myself. That's okay. The message has been duplicated. But here you can get information, contextual information based on that notification sent to the addresses in question. And that's just an example using the Notify SDK with inside of Notify functionality with inside of Alchemy. So I want to see if there's any questions, and then I can share some resources with you and a couple of other things that may be useful. So I don't see anything in the various chats, but Sean, anything that I've missed? Yeah, yeah, def definitely, definitely. Okay, so I'll run down the bounties. I guess that'll give you a good idea. Probably have some more questions while doing that, and then I'll kind of point you to some other resources that are probably hopefully going to be quite useful for you as well. So, bounties, where are we? Okay. The first bounty we have is essentially composable developer components for DAO tools and platforms to integrate Web3 native communication. What we're really saying here is we'd love you to build something that other developers can build on top of. So think about things that are useful for you when you're building communication tools. And this can be pretty broad. It could be, subscribe and subscribe, mailing lists, other ways to collate information or make communication easy for people. Bounty number two is build or extend DAO tools, platforms to include Web3 native communication. So, where DAOs are talking to each other, where votes are happening, where communication is important and needed, where does it make sense to kind of add communication or MailChain into those? That would be really interesting. We'd love to see kind of the things that you're thinking of there. The third bounty is kind of, the best application we think of for enabling native DAO communication and coordination. We've left this pretty open. I think people work best when they get to use their imagination and try things out. So really, really interested to see what type of ideas you have. Anything you want to validate with us, or any questions, or any technical help you need. We've got a Discord channel that's inside the chat, so please do get in touch with us. We're here to help as much as we can. The other one then is number four, contributor posts. So anyone that likes writing tutorials, writing, documentation, guides, things that are useful for other developers. We have, a bounty for tutorials for on DAO communication use cases using the MailChain SDK. Again, anything you want to validate, please do get in touch. What I would say as well, some of these bounties can be achieved just by building whatever you're building and adding MailChain into it. Hopefully, I've given you an idea of the sense of how easy it is to do that through the SDK. My bet to you is you'll spend more time writing the message than the code to send the message, which I'd love to see how true that is most of the time. What I want to say as well is there's a couple of other really interesting use cases. We didn't get a chance to go through the code. And one of them is on using magic links. So, signing personal messages is a way of authenticating, but it does involve someone using their wallet, and that can be dangerous. It has some concerns. Passwordless or magic links are essentially links that use a JWT token under the hood. It's secure, it's scoped, it expires. It's really good standard behind it. The big problem with these is delivery. Or secret delivery. How can I guarantee that the login link I send to a user or a secret I send to the user can get to them without being tampered with along the way? And that is what MailChain does. We transport things in end-to-end encrypted, so only the recipient can receive it. So you can use passwordless signatures by transmitting them via MailChain. And we've got an example here of how to use magic links with Passport, and there's a few others out there. So for those of you that want to find out a little bit more, our development reputation constantly maturing. We have a few more tutorials about how to send mail, more on the authenticated webhooks, quite a few on different notification platforms, Held, Handily, and Alchemy, and on magic links with Passport and Stitch. If you want to do something more advanced, you want to have more control over the MailChain components, we showed you the SDK, which gives you the full inbox experience. You can actually just message specifically from an address. You can check to see if an address has been registered or not. And then you can send from an address rather than needing the whole secret recovery phrase if you just want to isolate one address. And these are all in the docs. And again, we're on hand to help if there's anything that you'd like to know. Uh, there is, hold a second, there's another link that's probably quite useful. Oh, Tom, what is the learn link? We've got the resources dot learn here. So I'll drop this into, which chat should I put this into? The Zoom one? And let me pop this into I'll drop it into the Zoom one. I'll just put it there as well. And this kind of has like a much wider array of tools, guides, at all kind of different levels. So, you know, do take a look at this as well. Developers, you'll find developer docs probably the most useful place to start if you want to kind of figure out how to use the interface or what things it can do. This is a good resource as well. So yeah, and I think you've got a link to our Discord as well, inside the various chats and the hack pack. So I think they're the main things. But if there's anything you need, just get in touch.